My first car was a red RXZ convertible. Had a black top, had black hood louvers. It was beautiful. Had tires that you couldn't rotate because they were bigger in the rear than in the front. It was fast, and I was so excited to get it. I never forget when I picked it up that day in Gainesville, Florida. Candy apple red. I thought I was king of the hill. But shortly thereafter, it started giving me problems. It was in the shop. It's got to be 30 times in 6 months. I bring it in, I complained that I smelled fumes in the vehicle. I'd get it back, they said it was repaired. And then 4 days later, I have to bring it in again. I bring it back. Sometimes I'd be in the shop for 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes the vehicle would be in the shop for 2 days. I'd have to get a ride home. It was just driving me crazy. And then even though my employer was very understanding, it came a point where he got upset and he said, look, you got to figure this thing out because you can't keep missing work because of this car. So I was in this dilemma. I didn't know what to do. So finally he told me, he said, look, there's a statute, it's Florida Statute 681. I think they call it the Lemon Law. You need to read it and figure this out or get another job. And so forced with that decision, I decided, hey, I better look this up. So I started looking into it. And I realized that even though the statute seemed pretty simple and straightforward, it was really complicated. I had deadlines to meet. I had paperwork to fill out. If I missed filling out the paperwork the right way, then I could lose my claim. Ultimately, I navigated my way through it, and I won my case against General Motors. But it dawned on me, how would a consumer that hadn't been trained like I had been, 4 years of college, 3 years of law school, how would they figure all of this out? And how would they even know about the statute that it even existed? Well, sure enough, as things would have it, General Motors hired me to represent them. After they watched me beat them in a claim, they hired me to represent them. And I did that for about 7 years. And everything was going fine. We were very successful. I won most of the cases that I was involved in. And General Motors was happy. I also represented Toyota, Mercedes, a lot of the major manufacturers. And then one day, my 5-year-old son asked me, he said, Dad, what do you do for a living? And I told him what I did for a living. I said, son, I represent manufacturers. When people have a problem with their car, they file a claim, and then your dad makes sure that the manufacturer is successful. So my son said, oh, Dad, I get it. You keep good people in bad cars. I was like, wow, that's so profound. I never even really thought of that. Because that really, when I really pondered on what my son had to say, went against my core values. I went to law school to help the little guy. And so ultimately I changed sides. And I wanted to put to work all of the experience I had in representing manufacturers and helping these consumers that for years I was beating simply because they really didn't understand the law, or the lawyers that they hired didn't understand the law. And what's happened since that point? Well, we've helped consumers that have had your normal everyday vehicles like Toyotas and Hondas and Fords to get out of their lemons. And we've also helped folk that have had real expensive vehicles. We helped a consumer get out of a $600,000 Porsche GT. It was a $129,000 engine repair that Porsche couldn't get correct, and we were able to be successful on that. So when we talk about understanding the lemon law, knowing it, living it, feeling it, that's what I do. And for our firm, we really focus on making sure that our consumers get a total recovery. Some law firms say success is if they get the consumers a few $1,000s. Some law firms say, well, if we get them an extended warranty. For our firm, unless we get you out of the vehicle, get your loan paid off, we don't believe that you've been successfully represented. And that's what we do. And it's been very rewarding for me because I sleep well at night knowing that I'm helping people that have spent their hard-earned money get out of something that they didn't deserve. I remember back when I spoke earlier about when I bought my first car, the excitement that I had, the newness of the car, the feel that you had in showing off to your friends that you were able to buy this vehicle, and then the utter frustration I felt realizing that I wasn't having a good time. And so I understand how consumers feel sitting in the shop, having to get a ride home, missing a day of work, children that are crying, being stuck and stranded on the side of the road. It's terrible. It's terrible. And that's why when we represent you, we have all that in mind. And I personally I take that to heart to make sure that each and every consumer that we represent gets the best representation using all the resources that I have and all of my knowledge. Now I've been practicing law for 25 years. All that is being used for you.